A soldier, an airman, and a Marine walk into a room. This show is The Punchline. My name is Ryan Smeltz, and you're watching Veteran Talk Show. All right, guys. So in case you don't know, we are an affiliate for Soldier Girl Coffee Company. I'm super excited about this because they have amazing coffee. And in future episodes, you will see us drinking Soldier Girl coffee. They also have a CBD coffee. So if you need some CBD, which helps support your health in a sense of relaxation, it helps with your sleep and your overall health on a day-to-day basis, then Soldier Girl Coffee has both that and the caffeine you need. So be sure to check out the link in the show notes. Go ahead and click that, shop around, and make sure you get yourself some Soldier Girl Coffee today. So this is all, I mean, not to put the spotlight on you, but this is all about you. But I mean, I just thought it was cool how you walked beside us that whole time.
Yeah.
You know, you never, I think that kind of, it kind of just put like a little reminder in my head that it's like, what was the saying? You should always treat everyone with respect because you never know who you're talking to.
Right.
And, you know, not that like I was being an asshole to Ricky or nothing like that, but it's like, he walked beside us the entire hike and we chit chatted and everything. And then at the end, he's like, oh, by the way, I got this story. I'm like, oh. You know, after listening to the whole story, you know, it kind of blows your mind, but I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah. I get that a lot. At this past hike, there was I think she was a law enforcement officer and a probation officer. Now they're like talking about their jobs and all this, and I'm like, they had no clue who I was the whole time. But it just, you know, I get that often. I mean, I was at the gym last week, and this young Marine said, "I would have never took you." He said, "I would have never took you for a druggie." That's the way he worded it. But yeah.
So after our hike, I started going to the gym. So I was like, I have to get back into the gym. So really, because of the push-up contest, I was like.
I was thinking about getting up there. I was like, I'll do one and I'll do one, and then
that'll be it. I'll be done. So, but then I went back to the gym. There were two. So I work at Chapel Hill, where UNC is. And I went to the gym. There's two Marines there working out. They guess they're going through college. They're Mustangs or something.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like, or they're recruiters. I don't know. But they were sitting there throwing it up one day, and I was like, "Yeah, what's up?"
Yeah.
I was like, "Yeah."
Fuck you.
I was in about 12 years ago.
Yeah.
Lots happened.
Sure.
So, but yeah, you just want to tell everybody, you know, where you're from,
sure,
what branch, when you were in, all that good jazz. Let's get that.
I got 867 questions for him, so I'll let him go first.
So originally I'm from Missouri. I started in the Marine Corps from 1999 to 2003. I was a 1391 bulk fuel. I was an Air Wing Marine, stationed in Beaufort, South Carolina. Never was deployed, never saw combat. So that's pretty much the extent of my time in the Marine Corps. I got out as a E4. I was a corporal. I'm like I always tell people like the Marine Corps is something I'm extremely proud of, but it's not something they don't define who I am. It's just something I'm proud that I've done. And it definitely molded a lot of who I am today. So yeah, that was my extent of my military experience. I served 4 years and 8 months. Discharged in 2003. I got caught in a stop loss. I signed out. I got my orders, and I was like, if you're going to recall me, don't let me go home. And I returned back to Missouri for 2 days, and they're like, hey, you got to come back. So I had to go back. So I had to go back for another 8 months involuntarily. So yeah.
I know a lot of guys got stop loss.
Yeah.
That was nice.
Stop loss with no deployment?
Yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah.
That is weird.
The guys I knew got stop loss. They came back and went on.
Come on, we're going to the desert.
I mean, my squad, two of my squad leaders in Iraq were, I believe, stop loss. And I had a couple of guys who were stop loss who were in the initial invasion of Iraq. When I went to Iraq in LA, they done the invasion, came on the.
They had boots that had been in the service longer than you.
Yeah. They got out and they were out for like 6 months, and they got stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't know they would do that. Stop loss somebody without deploying them.
I think it was just because of the MOS that I was in. So when I got recalled, I went back. I worked with the MPs for like a month at the gate, and finally my old shop. I'm like, look, if you're gonna call me back, at least let me do my job that I know how to do.
Gate for a month?
Yeah. So,
that's just crap.
Yeah.
That's crap, man.
Yeah.
I would have been pissed. I would have been pretty livid about that. Really? How did you? I was out. I was home.
No.
Made it home and you put me on the gate. It sucks.
What year was that?
I was in from 99 to 2003.
Okay.
Yeah. I joined when I was 19.
That's why, because I think right there around 9/11 is when all the posts went on kind of lockdown and started. That's when they put out something called D-bids and started checking IDs like hardcore and started putting up barcode scanners and all kinds of stuff around the ACPs at military installations.
Yep.
I was an MP. So,
okay.
Yeah. Until they realized that checking identification and guarding your post, as it says in the general orders, was a skill level 1 task that any soldier could do. They had MPs doing it from when you got out until about the time I got out. And then they were like, oh, we can have infantry do this? Yeah, that's a good idea.
What do you mean when you say infantry like that?
Well, you just lucky you didn't have to check ID cards.
No, when I was in there too, like when we were doing there was no garrison. It was we're out in the field Monday. You were at work Monday morning 03. You didn't get off work until Friday afternoon at like 8 to 9. You were working the entire time. You were out in the field doing something, either live fire training or room clearing or whatever. I got to the fleet in November of 07. Right? Yeah, October of 07, and then deployed to Iraq in like April. Came home, then deployed in 09. Came home in November of 07, deployed in September of
09. He basically deployed twice.
Yeah.
In the amount of time it took me to deploy once. Of course, Army, but back then the Bush administration said 15 months. So I left the end of July 2007, and we got back almost November of 2008.
Okay.
It was a good time. It was really hot.
Yeah.
That's what I tell everyone. So I think one thing that's kind of common between us and a lot of the people we have on is irreverent warriors.
Yeah.
So how did you come across them?
So I come across irreverent warriors through Kyle Page through social media. I don't know if you know Kyle is, but he was part of the he's part of the team in Wilmington. What was that hike called? Carolina Beach. Yeah, that was the one. He just connected with me on social media and he asked if I'd ever heard of it, and I said no. And he invited me to an event, and I went. And that's one of the best therapeutic ways to connect, and it was just I enjoyed it a lot. So that's how I come across irreverent warriors.
I come down through the podcast. We had a guest here.
Yep.
And he was like, "Oh yeah, we were like, what is that?"
Well, that's how I find most of these folks, because I've been friends with Russell on Facebook for 3 or 4 years now, but I just heard about the hikes, and he was going to Texas and Colorado, and I was like, I just don't have the time, man. Like, I really want to go, but I don't have the time. And then I think the first Raleigh hike rolled around. I think I missed it.
Yep.
And then August, the second Raleigh hike was coming up, and I talked to him about it, and he was like, "Yeah, we should do it."
You know, and something that this is what I try to describe it, to other people. When you have a group of like-minded individuals who are moving their body together, it's just a great way of connecting. But to see how much it means to other people, like you'll see veterans show up that, not to be disrespectful, they're not in the greatest physical condition, but for those,
I'm in this photo and I don't like
but my point is, like, for at least for 6 hours, man, they're willing to push their body just to have that connection with people, man. That, to me, that's inspiring to see that. So that's one of the reasons I still
I really have enjoyed going on the hikes.
Yeah.
I'm really upset I couldn't go to the Fayetteville one.
Yeah.
Which was week ago?
Yeah. I don't know if I told you I didn't make it. I had this whole new thing.
No.
None of us did.
Oh, okay. Be all right. I am going. It's on my calendar for November 20th, the one last hike.
Where's the last hike?
Jacksonville.
Jacksonville?
It's Jacksonville, right?
I can't remember.
I'm pretty sure it's Jacksonville. Now I got to look at my calendar.
Yeah.
Because I think it might be Fayetteville.
I can get beach that week.
November 20th.
That's what really.
Well, Jacksonville's on the beach.
You have to hike the beach while you're.
Yeah.
on vacation.
It's 13 miles, so I'm going to be sucking wind. I'll tell you that right now. This is no.
Yeah.
This is what the hikes has helped me a lot. Just kind of battling my stuff that's been going on. This has helped the podcast.
Yeah.
And then the hikes have helped. Like after doing like what I've done, we've done 3 hikes. I was like, I need to get back to the gym.
Yeah.
And I've been going to the gym now every day before. So I get up now at 4:45. I head into the gym. I'm at the gym for like an hour and a half. I hate it because I go to a gym where there's a college and a bunch of college kids there.
Yeah.
They're like, they look like a strong wind's going to blow them over and they're throwing weight up.
Yeah.
They could be like,
Yeah, I enjoyed the Pinehurst hike. I've been telling people about how we walk on the golf course, and everybody's like, "What the hell's going on?"
I love that. I told people that too. I was like, "We're walking." Like when I saw us going into the court, I was like, "Oh, this is going to be interesting."
Do you know, I honestly believe one of the reasons why IW has grown the way it has is because they take them, and I didn't realize it when we went in the Raleigh hike, but they take them business cards.
Yeah.
And every single person that looks like they might have a question gets a business card. Next thing you know, either they're a veteran and they're coming, they know a veteran and they're sending them, or whatever the case is. They get the word out.
I remember I was like, "Oh, I don't have cards."
Yeah.
I saw everybody on the Raleigh hike giving out cards, and someone just handed me like
a stack.
I'm just like flinging them out to people. Like, here you go.
Yep.
That's crazy. I put them in my bag.
The lady was like, rolled down her window. I give you. Like you can. You go right in my pocket.
Yeah.
Everybody who talks the hike to us is like, "Oh, we didn't know." Like, yeah, you go. I love that.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it a lot. It's been a good time.
So how you get conned into being a guest speaker?
Well, excuse me, Kyle and I became friends on Facebook, and he like saw a lot of my posts and see that I saw that I speak on Camp Lejeune pretty often. And he said, "Would you be interested in speaking at Carolina Beach?" And I said, "Absolutely." And it was like there's like close to 300 people at that one. But that was the first time that I spoke at one of the hikes, and it was one of the better. It was a great day for me in general. But yeah, I enjoy it.
Yeah, the Pinehurst hike was not.
Yeah.
What was the first one in Pinehurst? Yeah. So you speak a lot, and I know you talked about your last day with the one organization.
Yeah.
So you transition now.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you do now? Speak full time?
Yeah. So right now, I've been pretty much following my passion, man. I tell people I let God lead me, and I'm speaking full time. I'm traveling back to Missouri tomorrow, actually, for a week. I'm going on a speaking tour. I'm speaking at like 10 or 11 places throughout the week. Speaking at 3 high schools and like 7 churches. One of the high schools is my graduating high school. So that's what I've been doing, I guess, professionally now since resigning from where I worked at. So. Yeah.
You ever heard of Eric Thomas?
I have. Yeah, I've seen his video. I've seen a lot of his videos on social media. He's a very powerful speaker for sure.
So when you go to speaking places, are you changing? Is it the same speak every? Is it the same like speak every time, or are you changing it depending on?
It's usually it's rooted. It's based on the same things. But I'm adding things as I go, just through life experience. And obviously, when I go speak at high schools, there's things that I won't curse, where I may be able to get away with that a little bit at Reverend Warriors, or but I'm always very. I mean, the schools know. I let them know from the beginning. Listen, I'm very transparent. I'm I'm transparent without being overly crude. And they encourage me. They're like, there's nothing you can say that's going to offend, they've not heard. So, but if I speak at a church, I'm always mindful where I'm at. I know the audience that I'm speaking to. So yeah, but I add things as I go. I mean, the thing about since I've resigned from my work that I'm able to read more, educate myself more, and just picking up things that I can implement in my own life, but also share it with other people. So yeah.
I was not ready for that. When you gave speech, I was like, oh, okay. I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're going to get into that at all on that.
I'm a grown ass man. He about had me in tears by the end. I was like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
But what do you think, Ricky, when you go to all these places?
Yeah.
I guess it's kind of hard to ask you since, but I'm sure you interact with the crowd a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
What do you believe that the biggest takeaway is for your audiences?
For me, transparency. I share things without coming across judgmental or insulting. They see through me like what I talk about a lot is like what we may think of as our weakness. When we overcome that and share it with other people, they see that as strength. So I think I think that I make people feel safe enough to be like, you know what, Ricky, he's in front of all of us, exposing everything. If he can own that, I can own a bad decision that I've made too. And that's kind of my whole point is I want to inspire people and give them hope and let them know, hey, listen, you're not the first person to make a bad choice. I've made a lot of them. So I think they take away from me, like not to give up. I mean, I help them put their life into perspective. And maybe if they're having a bad day, they're like, man, Ricky lost his son. He's a felon and he's still out here pushing it, and there's a lot of people that I used to put my life into perspective when I'm having that self-pity moment. I'm like, shit, they got it a lot tougher than me. So, but yeah.
What?
That's something I took away from. I was like, okay, like hearing your story was like, okay, I put my choices into perspective. I was like, okay, yeah,
I always thought there was like a time limit. Like nobody wants to hear about somebody that made a bad decision yesterday.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, if you made that bad decision, you overcame it, within, and now you're telling the story. It doesn't matter if it was yesterday or 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But to just,
I think something for me, Brian, that when I started going through my recovery, I'd seen a lot of people that they were getting sober, but they were like still, there's a lot of avoidance. They weren't taking responsibility for their choices. And I was like, man, I couldn't do that. I'm like, I got to get this off me. I've got to admit to it. I need to apologize. And just, I did it. I don't have any excuses. I own it. And I saw people that were deflecting what they'd done, and I didn't respect it. And I know I wanted to be a man that I would respect. That's what kind of started my whole transition to who I grew into. So,
well, what do you say to somebody like that now? Like if you talk to somebody that's like, oh, well, he did this and they did that. And, I try really hard, but it doesn't work, not willing to own their own decisions.
My approach is I try to have a balance of compassion with accountability. I'm not trying to insult anybody or be confrontational. I'm not trying to be right, man. I'm like, live your life, live it how you want. I'm just sharing with you my perspective and what happened with me. And I try to let my example speak for me. And I always share the choices that we make that are the most beneficial. They're not going to be the most enjoyable. It's just the reality of it. I said, I just try to be the best example I can be, because most people that are in that frame of mind, here's my thing. We all know when we're doing too much of something or not enough, and it's causing a negative effect in our life. We know when we're doing that, but it's up to us to to own it and be aware of it and improve upon it. I don't need to really point that out to them, because they know in their head what they're doing. So, and I'm really not a confrontational guy. I mean, I'm like, if this is the way you want to live, man, go ahead. I'm just telling you what happened with me. And, you can usually see, I think we all, when we see somebody that's intent on making these choices, we can usually see the outcome before it happens. So, and a lot of times, no matter what I say to them, they're just going to have to hit that. They're going to have to learn themselves. They're going to have to hit that spot of, accountability.
I think that's the hardest thing for me is, and I was listening, I think it was Graham Allen's book, his latest one, but he was talking about personal responsibility and accountability and how when you're in a position of leadership, still finding that person that can kind of hold you accountable because of that outside perspective.
Yeah.
And I feel like at work, at least, I'm kind of on an island, primarily because my job encompasses so many things that other people that work for me can't do.
Yeah.
So it's hard to get that outside perspective. Like, my boss works at his home office. That's
it's ironic. I've been reading a book.
That's why he hired me to run the place. But then I don't have somebody, and I don't need somebody over my shoulder. But sometimes, feedback is a good thing, and it's hard because I'm managing a very small team, and sometimes I wonder. It's like, did I say the right thing? Did I do the right thing? Is this going to cost me? Or
I never feel. I have my wife with me. She has the one of the reasons I respect her. She has no problem saying, "Listen, Ricky, I'm gonna explain to you how you appear." How that's something I tell people when we met. When she set boundaries with me, she said, I'm going to inflict this. She more or less inflicted adversity upon me out of love by telling me, "Listen, this is what I'm hearing you say, but this is what I see you do." And that hurt, man, because I thought I was pretty likable, pretty nice guy. And, looking back, I'm like, I needed a lot of improvement. So even now she I don't want to say holds me accountable, but she'll lay it out there for me so I can, improve. And I don't like to hear it. I'll take a step back, and at first I may be a little reactive or defensive, but when I take a step back and process what she said, I'm like, damn, she's 99% of the time she's right, and it was up to me to just to say, yeah, you're right, I need to improve on that. And so takes a lot of humility and also, vulnerability as well. So yeah.
I think it's hardest to hold yourself accountable for like going through personal drive.
Sure.
Work is one thing. When I have people under, so I'm a manager too.
Yeah.
I'll have people under me who like, bro, come on.
Yeah.
That's not good. Sorry. But like going through like making like conscious choices about like getting up and going to the gym every day, like those small. For some people listening to it, it's like, no, it's not a big deal. For me, that's a huge deal.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm on my feet in a lumber yard for 12 hours a day.
Yeah.
Like I'm average, so I'm lifting lumber all day long. Like that's a workout in itself. And to get up and go to a gym for 2 hours before that that's hard, right? So I'm trying to find a way to keep going and doing that every day. And that's what I find hard, to hold myself accountable, because no one's doing that for me.
Sure.
Find the way to do that myself. Yep. That's what I find.
And Ryan, to piggyback back on the question you asked me about the person that's not taking responsibility for their actions. This is me. Hey, brother, I love you. I care about you. No matter what choices you make, I'm not thinking any less of you, and I'm still going to be here for you. We all want somebody to validate what we're going through. We need that. We want to be heard. So that's pretty much. I'm a big listener, man. I've had so many conversations with people that I spent the hour just listening, and that's how I gained their trust. And they just wanted to be heard, because they usually know in their mind when they're doing something that's not good. They just want somebody to listen to them. So like I said, I try not to be confrontational. They're going to do what they're going to do anyway. So I just try to let them know, like, I'm empathetic with you. I can see how you're pissed or hurt, and I'll be here to talk if you want to talk, so I kind of leave it at that. However, there's been times with people's got my ass, with like, hey, get your head out of your ass. And I probably needed to hear it. I didn't want to hear it, but it's something I needed to hear. So, yeah.
I guess the question, I guess I was thinking like more along the lines of that person that comes to you, like, hey, I'm having trouble with this. And then you're like, hey, tell me what's going on.
Yeah.
And throughout the whole story, it's somebody else's fault. It's not my fault. There's nothing I can do about it.
I think a lot of that's based on the relationship you may have with that person. If you know them well enough to be like, hey, brother, can I be real with you? And like you guys may be together, and he could be real with you and out of love, and you're not going to take it, so personal. There's people that's asked me before to be transparent with them about something they were doing. And I'm like, you may be 100% honest. And they're like, yeah. And it kind of fractured our relationship, but I said it out of love. I wanted to let them know, listen, this is what you're telling me, but this is what I'm seeing. And, it took him a while to come back around, man. But I'm like, I'm a transparent guy. If you ask me, I'm going to tell you the truth. So, yeah, I think it just depends on the relationship you have with that person, more or less.
So, speaking as someone who has been in some similar situations before, well, I guess I want to start with one of my main questions is,
Sure.
Were your trials and tribulations before or after the military?
So I grew up in substance use. When I say substance use, I can remember I grew up in alcohol, raised in the bars and taverns, tasting beer like 4 or 5. I mean, I grew up, that appealed to me, tasting alcohol. And I don't blame my family, but it created a monster with me. And I was raised in it. I didn't really see a problem in it until, and it impacted my life. I partied a lot in the Marine Corps, like a lot of us do. Discharged, and when I discharged is when I got more heavily involved in the methamphetamine and pills and alcohol and all that. I just it was exciting to me. I enjoyed it. I thought I enjoyed it. It numbed me. I didn't understand what the transition phase was. Then how we leave active duty, then we're back to this unknown world of there's no connection, and the Marine Corps is our identity. Then we lose that, and then substance use became my identity, and that was the following 10 years of my life. So kind of how it went.
Yeah, I mean that transitioning out is can be difficult. That's always been here is figuring out how different people handle it. It's always the same. Everyone's about it's like, what the hell?
Yeah. I was talking to someone about that the other day, that I said, imagine being, retiring at 38 or 39, and you literally don't know who you are. Like, you've been told for 20 years, this is who you are. This is what you do. There's no democracy. Everything's planned out for you. Then now you're on your own at 40, 39, 40 years old. You're like, it's like it's a culture shock. I can imagine for a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah. That seems to be the thing it happened with me. Everybody's savvy.
Yeah.
On their shows, always talks about.
Yeah.
I got
one person said, "Oh yeah, that was okay."
Yeah.
Easy.
I mean, even I had Casey on, the aircraft mechanic, and he had this whole plan, and he had a job offer for they had just made that new I think it was 787 or 797 Max, and he was going to be a mechanic for them, and he had a job offer and everything. And then when they had those problems with him, they shut the whole program down. So he's transitioning, has a job lined up, fixing to buy a house and all this stuff, and then just everything got cut off all of a sudden. So even the guys getting out with a plan, sometimes, I had a platoon sergeant that used to say a plan is a series of events that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And that's that can definitely be that.
That's a great description. That's how I always talk about going on faith. When I talk about God leading me, I go on faith, and people have this perception of faith. Well, man, if I just believe and make a plan, everything's going to go perfectly smooth. And I'm like, man, it's farthest from the truth. A part of faith, and it's executing a plan, but understanding, it ain't going to go perfectly smooth. You're going to go left and right, and there's going to be some struggle along the way, but that's part of faith and part of growing and embracing the process and trusting the process. So yeah, I like that description of the plan. That's the truth.
Yeah. So that's my mentality. No plans about first contact. That's what we used to say.
Yeah.
The same thing.
Yeah.
And I've said,
plan it just did. So get up.
And the thing is actually taking that first step to execute the plan. I've seen so many people since I've been in this line of work, they spend days or weeks creating a plan and never execute it. I'm like, you got to take that first step, man. You have to believe in what you're doing and understand it ain't going to go perfectly smooth. It's going to be some shakiness along the way. So yeah.
So I want to dig a little deeper.
Please do.
Big away.
Yep.
Because every time I think about you, I think about Eric Thomas.
Yeah.
I mean, him just talking. I guess I don't think I've heard him talk about like being heavily involved in drugs or anything like that. But talking about, people ask him, Eric, how do you speak with so much authority?
Yeah.
And he says, because I'm talking about my life.
Yeah.
Not something that I read.
Yeah.
So, now you go around and to me, it's very clear that what you do is from a place of wanting to help other people. But obviously you had that time where you kind of, it clicked, so to speak. So, you're on this roller coaster called life.
Yep.
At what point, where were you? How did it go down that you were like, oh, I should probably fix this?
Fix when I was struggling with substance use.
Yeah.
So at this time is when I was living with my stepdad. I was 31, divorced twice. He puts me out, and I was homeless in and out of treatments and jail and all that. I ended up in a rescue mission, and I had 3 changes of clothes to my name. And prior to that, I was in this place called the CSC Center. It was like a jail. You could leave and go to work and come back. I was working at a factory, and at this factory, I was sober for about a week. Got back into life again, and I started bringing in drugs into the facility I was living at. I was like probably worse than I ever was. Well, at this factory, I was about to go full time, and I knew I had a drug screen coming up, and I didn't quit using. The day I took my urinalysis, I failed the piss test right then, got fired, and I was leaving that factory, man. And I was in tears. I'm like, man, I'm so sick of this. I'm like, I'm tired of not having control of my life. I'm tired of apologizing to people. I'm tired of taking community showers, sleeping beside other guys. Just the whole everything about it. I was sick of it. And that's when I finally made the decision. I'm going to do whatever I have to do to fix this. First step was, I asked to go to a rescue mission, and in that rescue, because it was more spiritual based. I had better food. I had access to a gym. Things that were, they were a big deal to me at that time. And I wouldn't trade those experiences, man, because that meant at that time, that meant everything to me. Like I said, I had 3 changes of clothes to my name. And that's when I crossed paths with my wife. She was working at a building down the street, man, and we crossed paths, and meeting her inspired, and it literally saved my life, man. I was like, man, if I tell everybody she's got 2 master's degrees and I got 3 felonies, so I'm like, I was like, if I'm gonna have a chance with her, I'm gonna have to get my shit together, man. And I was committed to being the best possible version of myself that I could be, and if she would have told me at that moment, this is how much work this is going to take for you to get from here to here, there's no way in hell that I could have done it. I'd have been overwhelmed, but it was a process, man, it was a slow transition, but I was just committed to, I'd rather been dead than go back to the life that I was living at, man. I was like, I'll do whatever I have to do. And it meant changing everything, to the music I listened to, my mindset, watching TV. It was literally everything in my life that I was so comfortable doing, but was miserable. I had to get uncomfortable, man, and it took a lot of work.
And still does.
Still does. It never goes away.
That's the biggest thing. Like Richard Kaufman is a guy in a lot of Facebook groups I'm in. Mm-hmm. He's a veteran and struggled with addiction, been sober for 30 years.
Yep.
And he talks about it. I can't imagine like the amount of effort. I'm sure there's days, and it's like you question,
sure,
what am I doing? Why am I doing it?
Yep.
What do you do in those situations? Like, how do you handle it when it sneaks back up on you again?
Well, like using meth and things like that, I don't really think about doing that anymore. My thing is like probably reacting to people and out of anger. At times, if I'm like, say we're out somewhere and you may be able to casually drink a beer, I don't expect you shouldn't alter your life to me. But when I see somebody that can casually drink a beer that's very innocent, to me, it would destroy my life, and I have to be very mindful of where I put myself at, because I can watch you drink that, and like I can taste it as you drink it. I was just one of those people, man, that I could never do anything in moderation. For me, there's days I wake up discontent, selfish, pissed. I go through all those things, but doing things like this, going on Camp Lejeune, speaking at schools, you guys hold me accountable, because I care about I care to be who I say that I am. I don't want to be a hypocrite. I don't want to say I do this, then at Buffalo Wild Wings, I'm living a different life. So I care about the kind of example that I said. That's what keeps me on my toes. And I'm a very structured, routine person. I do the same things every single day. That's what's benefited me, and I stick to that. As in the military, we know complacency kills, and I'm very aware of that. And I don't have any. One drink of alcohol for me could ruin my whole life, and that scares the hell out of me. So I keep that. I used to run from the pain by numbing myself. Now I sit through it. I reflect on it, because I don't lay in it, but I don't want to forget how I felt in them situations, because it keeps it fresh in my mind to keep me from going back to it. That's what keeps me motivated.
So, given where you are in your speaking career now, I guess I'm kind of curious, like, where do you see it going, or what's your plan?
Man, it's grown rapidly in the past month. Like, I'm already getting people scheduling me for dates in January, and most of this is coming from Missouri, where I'm from. My hometown and the area of Southeast Missouri have just been a huge support to me. I said from the beginning, I'm like, I'll speak to one person or 1,000. And I stood on that. And I mean, I've spoke at churches with 5 people, and I spoke at high schools with 350. It's just, I've never requested a fee. Obviously when people bless me, that makes it, allows me to keep doing this and bless other people. But if I'm invited, man, and I have the ability, if I can get there, I'm going to show up. I do this for more than just, to make $1, you know what I mean? But it's, I just feel called to do it. And when I started doing it, Julie can tell you, man, I was standing in the mirror for hours, or in front of an iPad crying, dude. I mean, I know I'm supposed to do this, but I stuttered so bad. I talked really fast. I still do at times, but I just kept doing it. And I wouldn't quit, man. And I started getting invites, showing up to speak at groups, and it just progressed, and I just never stopped doing it.
Did you seek out wanting to do speaking engagements like this, or was it something that like just kind of fell into your life?
Organically? Yeah. What I started doing, like, was therapeutic for me. On social media, I would share like very transparent posts and videos, and I would just things that were very raw. And because people said, man, you should start putting this on social media. And the first video I made was terrible, man. It was horrible, but I put it out there, and I just, by people giving me feedback, it felt like I had a sense of worth and purpose doing it. And that's how people started inviting. Like, I got invited to speak to a football team like 4 years ago. I was reading off a piece of paper, because I knew what I wanted to say, but I hadn't done it enough times to actually just take off doing it. And that's how it began. It really took off when I got to here to North Carolina. When we moved to Asheville, I came to North Carolina not knowing one person, no connection other than Julie's job that she took. And I got to Asheville and just started networking. And, like I said, I don't believe in luck or good fortune. I believe in preparation meeting opportunity. And I met people that, showed me the door, but I had to walk through it. And that's ultimately how it all took off.
Okay.
So
would you say your purpose is driven more by you wanting to speak to people, or by, I guess, the opportunity for you to help other people through your speaking?
Probably the opportunity to help people through my speaking. My whole mission, I was asked this the other day. I'm trying to give people the same gift that was given to me, and that's the gift of hope. And I keep it. That's the way I choose to look at it. And whatever somebody takes from what I say, if it's something that, if like when I go on base to speak to these young Marines, I don't think I'm changing the mind of everybody there. But if one of those kids are out on a weekend, they may remember something that I said that may alter a decision they're about to make. That's a win. You know what I mean? So that's one of the things that reasons I keep doing this. Because when I go on base, like even when I go to high schools, I see my son in them. I see myself in them, And I'm really passionate about, planting seeds with the younger people. Like when I did community outreach, a lot of times when I would encounter a homeless individual that's 40, 50, or 60, most of the time, 9 times out of 10, they're stuck in their ways. They're comfortable in that environment. And I can be like, hey, brother, hey, sister, if you need some assistance, give me a call. And I may not ever see them again. But these young Marines or these people in high school, they're still, they can still be influenced, and I can still plant some seeds with them, and they'll think about it. So that's something that I really feel passionate about doing.
So your goal would be like trying to
prevention, yeah,
instead of
yeah. That's what somebody asked. They said you went from being reactive to now you're doing prevention. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the way to look. That's the best way to go, is trying to be proactive instead of reactive.
Reactive.
That's always that. I mean, and that's with anything.
Yeah.
What do you find most difficult about? So I am terrible at public speaking. Because I'm like you. I get up, and even if I have a piece of paper, I'm like, then I'll lose my space where I'm reading that, and it's like, okay. What do you find most difficult about going around? Is it having to relive the stories that you tell? Is it just the amount of people? I mean,
well, usually when I get like the last time I was home, I spoke at a high school with like 350 kids around about. And once I start, I feel I'm never comfortable doing this ever. Like I've done this. I probably spoke close to 300 times. I tell people I'm not an entertainer. I don't memorize a song and get up there and sing it. And I'm never comfortable doing it. But once I get up there, I get my groove, and I feel a little bit more comfortable. There's always nerves. I never want to lose that. I always want to be alert. I never want to think, I got this. It's not a big deal, because this is serious to me. I've spoke on Camp Lejeune probably 15 times in one day before because of COVID. The groups were like 25. And when I finished that day, it was probably one of the most physically and mentally draining things I'd ever done. I sat on my couch at home, and that's like I had an out-of-body experience of like being on high alert for hours upon end, just the physical talking nonstop and walking. It was like, it was a draining situation. But as far as what's the most difficult, there's times that I could be relaxed the whole way to where I'm going, and like 5 minutes prior, I like start getting a little bit nerves. There's times I've cried in front of people up there. I forgot what I was going to say, but they usually can't tell that I forget because I'll keep it moving. But I'm thinking in my mind, they can all see this. When I spoke to those high school kids the last time I was home, that was probably I was intimidated at first because I'm like, man, they'll tear you to pieces. They'll laugh at you. They'll get on their phone.
That's got to be the worst. You see like a kid just sitting back there on the phone.
But it went great because I knew from the beginning, and I don't say this to be arrogant, but a lot of for me is how I present myself, physically, and I look like they want to see what I have to say from the beginning. So I gained their attention from the jump, and it went great both times. I was able to. I did the push-ups with them. I told him, I was like, listen, if you guys beat me, I had 2 guys up there. So I give you $20 a piece, which I both times I won, but I still gave them the money anyway. I threw t-shirts to them. And so it was I loved it, man. It was a great time.
Have you ever run across a situation where you're standing up and you can look out and there's the one person that you just know is you need to help the most, but you just can't reach that person? Have you ever run into a situation like that where you can just eyeball them out?
Well,
that person needs help.
I actually had this on video. Last time I was home speaking at the high school, when I got to the part about my son taking his life, I can see this on this. I saw these young females in the stands, like putting their hands over their face like this. I mean, I got home to watch that, man. It was like stuck me in the heart. I was like, dang, man, I wish I could have been there to be like, hey, can I give you a hug? Or, but it just, to see her in that video, it really moved me. But yeah, I get approached by these young kids often afterwards telling me, you're my dad. My dad's doing what you were doing. And that's just like, it hurts me, but at the same time, I hope that I can give them some hope to let them see maybe, their dad has a chance of coming up out of what they're going through.
Right.
Yeah.
That's gotta be right. Yeah. Especially coming from a kid, like
It happens often. Even on Camp Lejeune, these young Marines come up to me and they're like, I can relate to what you're going through. My dad's in the same situation. And so, yeah, that's pretty it's pretty tough, but I'm there. That lets me know you're the reason I'm here today. This is the reason I came today. So
I'm just really glad you're here. Because I just can't imagine having a kid, and being in your situation.
Sure.
I don't know if I want to go too deep, but
you can ask anything you want, man.
How did you get through that?
It was difficult, man. I still have days where I'm pissed. I'm never mad at my kid. I'm never mad at God. My son made a bad choice. Just the way it happened, I was and I'm so open about what happened with him is because I want people to see, like, man, if you've got kids, the way we treat people matters, man. My behaviors impacted his mental health. The broken promises, putting other drug addicts in front of him, my addictions, the lies I stole from my own kid to get high, just always letting them down, man. That impacts somebody, not in a good way. And the day I didn't really go I didn't get to go too in deep about it at the event, but I'll just share with you. So the day it happened, I spoke to my son on the phone, and I'm like, "Hey, brother, buddy, I love you." He was going to come move with me and my wife, and he seemed like everything was calm, but it was a calm before the storm. And so he went to this, like I said, he went to a city park. He took his life. Where my wife and I lived at the time, we didn't have cell phone service. So we're going to Walmart, and on our way to Walmart, her phone starts blowing up, man, text messages, missed calls. And I'm like, man, something's bad. So we pull over, and I call my stepmother, and I said, Mary Jane, what's going on? And she said, put Julie on the phone. So that's when I knew. I didn't know what it was, but Julie hung the phone up. She said, Ricky Landon's dead. And I'm like, it knocked the pit. I mean, it just took my breath, man. And it's still difficult. I still have days when I struggle. Julie has seen me like just broken, man. But doing these things is what keeps me going forward. It never goes away. Like, there are people ask me, like, how does it get easier? I'm like, no, it never gets easier. It never goes away. We just learn to adjust to it, and we get stronger. And you have good days and bad days. And I refuse to look at myself as the exception. I refuse to think I'm, poor me. I'm a victim. I created victims. So and with my kid, man, he just he's not hurting anymore. I look at it like that. I don't have to worry about him anymore. He unintentionally left me this gift to be able to do this with you guys. And that's the way I choose to look at it. I mean, it'd be easy to lay in that forever, but I don't want to put my wife through that. I'm not going to take it out on you guys. I mean, I see so many people that get caught in that, such devastating grief that they'll take it out on everybody around them. And I'm like, I'm not going to do that. I mean, I'm going to make something positive out of this. So that's how I get through it.
Yeah. I just can't imagine. I mean, that's why I say I'm glad you're here, because you talk to so many veterans, and a lot of them go through a hard time.
Sure.
And then, I mean, I've got a friend out in Colorado. We were stationed in Germany together, and she had 5 guys she deployed with took their lives in a month.
Yeah.
And I spent 3 hours on the phone with her while I was in Germany, because I don't really consider myself the best listener, but
sure.
that's all I could do.
Man, dude. Usually that's what all people need, man. Somebody just to listen to them and not try to fix them. Like, this is what you need to do. This is what I would do. We just want somebody to validate, like, hey, brother, I don't know how you feel. I'm sorry. I'm here to listen to you without judgment. That's all. Listening is a skill, man. I mean, there's a lot of people that have talked to me where I'm listening to them. In my mind, I'm thinking, if you would just do this would stop happening. But that's something I don't give people advice, and I share that often because I may say this is what happened with me and this is what I did, but I don't give people advice because I'm like, if I was to give Ryan advice and you took my advice and it didn't work, you're gonna look at yourself in the mirror and think, man, what's wrong with me? It works for him, or that leaves that potential to be, somebody's gonna blame you for it. Like, well, you said this would work, and so that's why I always share my perspective without trying to give advice. So yeah, listening, man, that's the key to me. That's the biggest thing. Just to sit and let somebody talk and let them be heard. Really,
that's crazy. She's She is now a mother of two, married, real estate agent, cancer survivor. So I'm glad she's still around too. She runs a pretty big Facebook group on suicide prevention.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's why.
And in regards to listening, I always share to be therapeutic, you don't have to be a therapist. Be present. Be present with somebody. Be willing to listen to them, and that's basically therapy. Like Reverend Warriors, that's therapy. Being present with people and talking as you walk. To me that's a big thing.
Right. So a lot of veterans struggle with a lot of different things.
Sure.
Depression. It's very prevalent. What advice do you have for someone who's going through that? As someone, because I think everyone goes through it at some point.
Sure.
And we all have our own experiences. What helped you or get through those times, and what advice would you give?
Getting uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. You can be in a comfortable misery, and I always share that term. For me, it was getting uncomfortable. It was, surrounding myself with people who had my best interests, that were compassionate, but they were also stern at the same time. It was getting uncomfortable, not giving up, putting myself in situations that helped me improve. Like I said, the choices we make that are the most beneficial, they're not the most enjoyable. There's no blueprint approach to it. What works for me may not work for the next person. The gym has always been big for me, even in my bad days. Like I always try to work out, just because to me, when I go to the gym, there's days I don't want to go, but by going, I'm intentionally inflicting adversity upon myself. So when I work through it, at the end of a workout, you never think, man, I hate myself. It's like you always feel good about accomplishing that. You know what I mean? So it's something I always try to stay on top of. As far as, I would never tell somebody what they should or shouldn't do in depression, because like I said, it's what's best for me may not be for them. But man, the main thing is not to give up. There's going to be better days ahead. It's not going to be easy. Even when life's going smooth, it's difficult. There's things going to pop up, So, don't be afraid to reach out. Try something. Just if you don't think something's working, don't be afraid to try something different,
That's good. That's great advice. I think that's, very good. I mean, I'm not comfortable. Like, I never would have gone on a veteran hike if I found out about it until we started doing it.
Yeah.
Like, I never would have just gone by myself. I'm like, I'm going to go try this.
Yeah.
I never would have done.
And that's the same with me, man. I'm by myself a lot. Sometimes it's not by choice. But there's times like when there's that situation, I was like, I hadn't done anything like that in a long time. And I'm like, so I mean, I knew I was going to go, but I'm like, we'll see what happens. I didn't go into it with the best attitude initially, but when I got there, I'm like, man, I'm glad I came,
Yeah. I was the same way. When I went, I was like very apprehensive about it. The first one I went.
Yeah.
Like, this is going to be terrible.
Yeah.
This is going to be like going into a VFW, and it's like
frat party or something.
Awful. It's a bunch of young, I don't want to be around any of this.
Yeah.
I get there, I'm like, okay, no, it's not.
Yeah.
It's actually pretty nice.
And I'm fortunate with my wife, man. She's been with me a lot of times when I didn't want to go do something, and she'll put it in a perspective. I'm like, you know what, you're right. She's like, you never know who's going to be there you may be able to connect with, or who may need to hear what you have to say. And I'm like, yeah, that's a good point. And it's always, I usually create these scenarios in my head before I even go that ain't even, not even true.
I know exactly. We went to, so my wife has a group of friends that she really hangs out with once a week, and they do dog night together. They're not really my group.
Mm-hmm.
And they did a Halloween party, and I was like, he was going to go last week. I was like, along with these people, nothing in common.
Yep.
And so, I get there, and I'm like, I'm just gonna stand in the corner of this person's bar and just stand here.
Yeah.
All awkward. And it took me a minute to come out of my shell, but putting yourself out there like that, really hard to do. But you really do that.
Sure. Absolutely, man. Yep.
So if you could choose your ideal arrangement, venue, crowd, Like, I know you said you've never really are comfortable, but like, do you prefer schools, churches, large crowds, small crowds? Like, what does your ideal setup look like?
I don't really know. I've spoke at jails, the brig, schools, churches, groups. I spoke at the Reverend Warriors in Wilmington with my shirt off in front on the beach. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I didn't have. I was about to put my shirt on, and the guy was like, "Hey man, go through like you are. That look cool." But I don't know what the ideal group would be, man. Honestly, I prefer. I don't know if I can answer that honestly. Because like I said, I'll speak to literally anybody that's willing to listen, man. So. I enjoy speaking to the Marines on base. The high school has been great, but like I said, I'll speak. I don't know if there's really any ideal place, man, to be honest.
When you go to the Marine, like what? So when you go to the Marines, like at June,
yeah,
to get ready, transition out, or
all
just coming in. Or?
It's all different. It could be Marines that just got out of boot camp. They may be having what's those things on base called where you have the safety. They have they may have a prevention for the company, and they like have groups going through different.
The Army called them safety stand down days.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Oh, so
Joe got a DWI last week, so now we're going to talk about how to not get DWIs.
Yeah. So the funny, I laugh about when I go to. They call it the schoolhouse. So these Marines just got there from boot camp, or they're going to SOI or MCT or whatever, but they're still really new. And so like I walk in, they're like, "Good morning, sir. Good morning, sir."
My family came out to visit on family at Paris Island.
Yeah.
We were walking around the main side of Paris Island. All the recruits walked out. "Good morning, sir." My mom said, "Why are they calling you sir?" You're an officer. We didn't.
Yeah.
What's going on?
They have to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That's just interesting to go out and hit those guys up, because when we did safety stand out, we did safety stand out. But it was never. We never had someone like you.
Yeah.
The thought, like, I can legitimately think about the speakers that we did have come in and talk to us was always a check in the box. And it was always at a battalion wide, but it was never in a small, intimate group.
Yeah.
Like, hey, third platoon's going to go listen to this guy and then go somewhere else. We never had it. And I think that would have been very helpful.
Well, I think one of the best compliments that humbled me that I ever had was one of them, might have been the dad spoke 15 times, but a gunny come up to me afterwards. He's like, "Man, I just want to tell you, I appreciate what you're doing." He said, these kids can be setting in combat, there's bullets flying by their head. They're not scary. They're not scared, but what you're doing scares the hell out of them. I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Being honest and transparent." So that made me feel like that was a great compliment to me, because I was never in combat. So to be able to see these kids, man, they're kids, man, 20, 19 years old that are defending the country. They're willing to die for me. It's just a very, very moving to be able. I'm every time I get to do it, man, I'm very honored and proud to be able to just spend some time with them. So I'll never say no.
It's awesome.
I think one of the biggest things for me is how, you were in the Marines and you got out and went through your struggles.
Yeah.
It's like, I think it's twofold there. Number one is somebody that's about to transition kind of sees how, hey, you might have this idea of what it looks like, what your future looks like, but here's how your decisions are going to affect your life.
Yeah.
And then on the flip side of that is, even if you've been through something like this or you're going through it, there's still that light at the end of the tunnel.
Yep. And when I share with you guys the comfortable misery, I want to. I've talked to you about it before, but the way I frame it is you can be, you'll see somebody that's active duty transitioning to the civilian sector. In a marriage, you may be miserable, a job you hate, homeless population, people that's done an extended period of time incarcerated that are, about to be in the free world again. You can be in a situation that's for me, it was addiction. So you can be in these situations that are very toxic and destructive, but the longer you stay in it, you get comfortable in it, man. It becomes your identity. So the thought of transitioning to this new environment, it's the fear of the unknown. We doubt our abilities. It's scary, intimidating. And for me, that's what it was like transitioning from active addiction into recovery. I knew what I needed to do. I just didn't have, I wasn't committed to it, and I was probably lazy, and I had a vision and a goal, but not a plan. And meeting my wife is what gave me that direction and got me, like I said, when I met her, I'm not the most religious person, but I'm spiritual, man. And I believe in God. My way of doing things was proven to fail over and over. And when I met her, it was like God said, Ricky, let her guide you, let her lead you, listen to what she has to say. And I had to humble myself and let myself be vulnerable to do that. And that's ultimately what began my transition for me, is just to let somebody just show me how to do this. So that's what I mean by comfortable misery. Like I said, when I was doing homeless outreach, 9 times out of 10, the veterans that I encountered that were homeless, when they're in that situation 5, 10, or 15 years, you get comfortable in it. This is your home. And I'm like, hey, brother, we can get you into housing or employment, but you have to leave this behind. Most of them would stay where they're at. So that's, and because a lot of people had this misperception about, I can't believe there's homeless veterans. Well, there's some that fall through the cracks. Absolutely. But from my experience, when you go to a facility, there's rules, and and there's criteria that you have to meet. You got to stay sober. You have to follow these rules. We're out here in this environment, you can do whatever you want. It's kind of like you do whatever you please. A lot of veterans would rather stay in that situation. From my experience, they would rather stay in that situation. So I just try to connect with them. Like, hey man, if you need to talk or you need some food, give me a call. Or so that was my experience with the comfortable misery that I always talk about.
So one of the things that I'm working on doing with my other show, Business and Brews, is basically on that show, I have business owners and stuff like that. And it's really, we have guests on, and of course that gets them exposure just like here. But, if we're able to bring value to you, then, what would that look like? What are some things that you could really use to help us, help you, help other people?
Sure. Man, I will speak. Like I'm speaking when I go home next week. I'm speaking at this place called Boot Hill Counseling. When I went home last time, I spoke at a place called SEMO Electric. I speak to their employees. If they have like safety briefs, literally I'll speak anywhere. Like I'll go to church, school, law enforcement, courts. Man, social media has been a huge benefit to me, and also word of mouth. I just the people from my hometown. My hometown's 3,500 people, and their feedback, comments, shares, views, however they support me, it impacts my career all the way in North Carolina. So, just getting my name out there in general. I live and die by my word, man. If I tell you I'm going to be there at 11 o'clock, I'm going to be there at 11 or 10:30. I show up. I'm going to show up for sure. So that's just something that I value that a lot.
So how can people find you?
It's under Ricky Johnson Jr. I'm on Facebook. Next week, I'm actually creating a public figure page on Facebook with some professional videos and some professional pictures that I'm scheduled to do when I go back to Missouri tomorrow. So yeah, that's where you can find me at.
Okay, so what about the people who don't have an audience and want to support what you're doing? If somebody wants to send a donation or make a contribution.
Sure. People have blessed me through Facebook. I don't have Cash App or Venmo yet. I think I still need to get that. But people have blessed me through Facebook. You can do like the send pay or whatever.
Yeah.
Like I said, I've never asked for a dime in anything that I've done. Before I went home last time, I was in the hole every time. Like, and I looked at it as an investment. I'm like, if I have to spend $400 for a trip, I'm going to impact somebody's life. And I'll get back to what you're saying. It's been about 5-6 months ago. I was contacted by a Marine Reserve unit in Johnson City, Tennessee. They had a Marine that he overdosed and died on fentanyl. Mm-hmm. Their commander, their CO contacted me. They're like, hey, Ricky, can you speak to our Marines? My wife, I could not do this without her. She took 3 days vacation to drive me all the way to Tennessee to speak for 30 minutes. And we came back to North Carolina. And I'm like, that because that's what this means. That's what they mean to me. and I would do it again. You know, so this is something I'm very passionate about. But like I said, if people
get a fucking cape,
yeah.
That's what she needs.
Yeah.
Golly.
Yeah. So yeah, if people, like I said, I never requested a dime. So if somebody wanted to bless me, it allows me to bless other people too. You know, I don't just keep all the money to myself, but if I can help somebody else, I'm about that as well.
I'll keep you here all day, man. But I know I want to be respectful of your time.
I have to fly out at 5 a.m. So.
Golly, I really appreciate you coming up here, man.
I appreciate you guys having me, man. It's been great.
Yeah. I've got well, I guess we can talk about it on camera. I'm going to send you Troy Johnson's contact information. Okay. He runs a nonprofit called Young Men for Christ.
Okay.
Or YM4C.
Yeah.
He's got apparel. He does the Bro Code podcast. I actually had him on Business and Brews, and so I think there's a parallel there where you guys could help each other out. As well as I'm kind of picking up that maybe you don't have a website yet.
Not yet, no.
So there is a veteran who is offering veterans websites.
Okay.
It's extremely low cost, but he's offering veterans basically unlimited updates for free.
Okay.
And so, you know, I'm having him do my Business and Brews website. And once he gets that done, I'll send you his contact information, because then when you do a speaking engagement and you want to add content, you can go through his portal and you don't have to worry about doing it yourself and crap like that. So I think that would be neat, because then we could see your speaking schedule.
Sure.
And we can show up. Yeah.
I'd show up and be the guy back.
The heckler. Yeah.
I'm like the class clown.
Yeah.
I said it was I just
I'm gonna share this with you guys before I get off here. One of the first times I spoke was in my hometown at this. It was called the Rise Conference. It was like a conference with how you explain it, like Bible school, kind of like, but it was for youth.
Yeah.
But the kids were from like ages of 6, 7, you know, up to teenagers. And this was one of the first times that I ever spoke. And I was trying to find that balance of not being too transparent, but saying enough to where they understood what I was talking about. And these 2 little boys was in the audience, and I said this. I was talking about when I got incarcerated, and I said the second time that I got locked up. He goes, the second time. And they kept screaming in the audience, "Tell us what you did." And I said, "Ask your parents." Man.
That's been me as a kid.
Yeah.
Like, no, let's figure this out. Yeah, I was always in class clown.
Yeah,
it's just I don't know. That was that way in the Marine Corps. People be like, really? Like you're doing? Yeah, who I am.
Yeah. My hope is that, you know, Troy Johnson or somebody else can connect you. I already have an idea. Yeah. Hopefully I can get you out and speak to a very, very small group, but that way you get the opportunity here in North Carolina that you get out in Missouri.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. I'm trying to, like I said, I've spoke a lot here in North Carolina, but as far as getting into the way that I've kind of branched out in Missouri, I'm still trying to get that here in North Carolina as well.
There's a place in Chapel Hill called the Oxford now.
Yeah.
A lot of guys going, a lot of recovering addicts.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah. They go through the Oxford house.
Yeah.
So that's where people just already maybe reach out to them.
Okay.
And see about that. And I'm sure they'd love to have someone like those guys.
Guys, it's been great. And I appreciate what you're doing. Yeah.
That's a long drive for 2 fat old veterans.
I've been going for 3 weeks.
1.5.
3 straight. No, 3 straight weeks.
1.5 fat old veterans.
Yeah.
So good.
Well, we do the push-up competition with you, but I don't want to get embarrassed on camera.
I'll tell you right now.
Yeah.
I may get one good one.
I'll count 0, 0, 0.
He'll cheer.
Well, I appreciate you guys coming out here. Thanks for driving them up here. That's fantastic.
Yep. Give us a suggestion where to eat at on our way out.
What do you guys like? Any diet restrictions?
No, we're pretty we eat good, but we don't eat like so strict that you just can't enjoy anything. So
okay. If you like Mexican food, like right down here on the corner.
Yeah.
If you go turn left, there's like a whole little Latin little strip mall right here on the corner of the next
yeah.
And there's a really good restaurant in there. It's called like Los Palmas. Really great food. If you like Mexican food.
Yeah.
There's Leesville. There's a burger joint down there off Leesville Road, which probably takes about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I think it's a chain, but I'm a sucker for Bad Daddy's.
Bad Daddy's
burgers. Yeah. In Raleigh.
Brickyard Burger.
In Raleigh, the Bad Daddy. It's right where Capitol Boulevard crosses. Right there, it's downtown.
Yeah. There's a whole. If you go into Durham, there's a whole bunch of good places.
Okay.
Just depends on which it is. There's dashi, which is like a ramen noodle place, really good. There's a good little off of Swift Avenue in Durham. There's a really good, if you like fried chicken.
Yeah. Well, give us some barbecue choices.
Barbecue. There's a little bar turned right here at the corner. If you turn right out of here, I think it's called like 5 Points Barbecue. Is literally you turn right, go down the next light. It's in the gas. It's right next to the gas station.
Yeah.
Like you pull in to where the BP is on the left, right there.
Yep.
It is at the end of the building. It's a great little barbecue joint.
Okay. Sucker for North Carolina barbecue.
We're still searching for that. We've had a couple that were like really stood above the other ones, but we're in the area. We're still trying to find a good spot.
Eastern North Carolina, that's definitely go to Eastern. It's different than Missouri.
Yeah,
you gotta like the pulled pork and the apple cider vinegar.
Yeah,
I love that. I live and die for it.
Yeah,
there's a place off 55. I can't remember what it's called. It's off 55 right there by 40, and in Durham. And they'll open at like 11 o'clock, and then they'll close when they run out of food. And they've closed at 12. They've closed at 2.
Wow.
They've been shut. They've done. I don't even know if they do dinner because I don't know if it lasts that long.
Oh wow!
The best place I've been is over by the old ballpark, and it's we had this conversation.
You asked for one, and we're over here naming like 30.
My dad actually texted me, so I've got to like pick that out and be like,
I really appreciate you coming up here, man.
Thanks, brother.
I might edit this one and put it out next week.
That's fine.
And instead of, because normally, like we've got, I don't know how many in the shoot.
Yeah.
We had Brian McGowan from the Hikes on, and it took forever for his episode to surface because we started recording, I think, last November or December, and then we didn't launch until April. And I mean, that was intentional because I knew we weren't going to be able to record every weekend.
Yeah.
Plus, I originally planned on taking each recording session and making 4, 5, 6 episodes.
Yeah.
And then I found out people like the long form.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, well, maybe we'll just make each session one. Yeah. And so now I basically separate it by guest.
Gotcha.
So
go to the pit in Durham, which is really good. It's the pit. Check that out. It takes probably about 10 minutes to get there.
Okay.
Maybe 15.
The pit.
Yeah, it's right in the middle of smack dab down there. There's a whole bunch. There's Bull City Burger, which is good. There's Durham Food Hall down there. The pit's really good. And if you don't want the pit, you've got Mavericks, which is a smokehouse.
Okay.
So you fly out tomorrow?
Yeah, I'm flying out of Jacksonville. I usually fly out of Wilmington, but Jacksonville is reasonable, so I'm gonna fly out there. Fly from there to Charlotte to St. Louis.
And then when do you get back?
Next Saturday.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hit you up because I might have you come down there. Sure. I got a warehouse in Fuquay.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't think that anybody there has a major problem, but I think everybody would benefit from
hearing
your story.
Absolutely.
This is the Veteran Talk Show, If you or someone you love is suffering as a victim of sexual harassment, sexual assault, needs help with addiction and recovery, or mental health and well-being, then please go to veterantalkshow.com/resources. This show is hosted, produced, and edited by Ryan Smeltz. Our co-host is Joe Ballack, and a guest starring veterans.